Hey guys, and welcome back to another Unfiltered Gamer Kickstarter board game review. Today's game up on the chopping block is a game by Midnight Heroes, and it is called Super Chibi A.C.E, the arcade combat game. And this game is basically a 2D side-scrolling fighting game for 2 players, ages 13 and up, and it plays about 15 to 30 minutes. Basically, you're going to start from one side of the board, and the other player's going to start on the other side of the board, and you're going to be playing cards to fight each other while moving and pushing those joystick buttons. It's similar to one of those old classic 2D side-scrolling fighting games like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, and it plays similar. Alright guys, let's go ahead and check out the game. Alright guys, so this is Super Chibi A.C.E right here, and this is what it comes with. You've got 2 player, I guess these are player cards. I right now only have a piece of paper, but in the actual game you'll get cards, as well as the player deck that's for both players. However, you can also back it and get a second deck for one for each player. And it comes with these different miniatures. Now, in the game you get 2, but there's going to be more you can unlock, or you can buy them separately depending on how they do it. But I'm going to be using the Crossmaster Arena Chibis, just for example, because I didn't have time to set up all these guys, and I'm not very good at it, to be honest. Also, as well as setting the characters right on their start spaces, player 1 start and player 2 start, we're also going to set our super meter counter up by 1. That's where you start. And each player is going to get 7 cards from the deck. There we go. One player starts on one side, and one player starts on the other, and the game will begin with the first player going first. These here are going to be the moves of the character's abilities and what they do, and the cards are going to reflect the different symbols you're going to need to use for those abilities. Alright, so a turn on Super Chibi is fairly simple. You got your 7 different cards here in your hand. Down, up, left, right, the kick, the punch, and a wild card are what you will find in the deck. And they're basically going to correspond with moves on your sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and take up this guy here. This is Midnight sheet. And you can go ahead and do different things based on the cards in your hand. And you're going to get to perform one or more of these moves depending on the style of play you're doing. You can do certain amounts of basic attacks, or you can do special attacks that go down this board here. And there's also a secondary amount of moves, which are all the basic moves, that will let you double jump, or move left, or move right, or block heavily, those kind of things. But if I wanted to, on my turn, I could simply pick a combination of moves, such as maybe deflect by going down and going right, and then picking the kick button, and right here, and I would play these 3 cards here, and then I would be able to deflect something. Now, that specific move is going to be a deflecting of somebody else's move, which means that if they do something on their turn, on my turn, I could play this deflect move. Whereas if I wanted to, I could just actually go for a strong kick on my turn and a strong punch on their turn. And in response, they could also choose to block, depending on what moves they want to do. Alright, so the game is set up, and I've explained the cards to a little bit of understanding. At the beginning of your turn, you can discard cards that you don't want, and draw up to that many. And you don't do that at the end of your turn. At the beginning of your turn is when you do it. Alright, so I've drawn my 3 cards, and I'm going to be player 1, and as you see on the board, it'll tell you, and this is not exactly the board that's going to be in the game. I'll actually show you one. It'll be in the game in the review section of this, but for instance, this is the player 1's start space, and he will go ahead and do his first move. Now, if he wants, he can use any of these abilities right here. The block, crouching block, long jump, throw, trip, dash, and withdrawal. 3 of these things are basic moves, which is the withdrawal, the dash, or the long jump. A long jump is simply jumping 2 spaces and then changing directions, whereas the withdrawal is moving back 4 spaces, and the dashing is moving up 4. You could also simply move, which is just a single card like this one right here, and that'll let you move 2 spaces. And whenever you change directions, so whenever you jump and change directions, your opponent will as well, specifically if you're going behind them. So if you're going like this, they would change directions. Alright, so let's go ahead and do a move and show you what I mean. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is move, and you can do that once for free. You move up like that, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a move. So I'll use one of Midnight's specific abilities. Maybe I will use Shield Smash. So I will use this one here, and I will also use a punch. And that will do a specific amount of damage based on what your card is going to say. For instance, we'll use it as 5. So the combo itself does 5, and also in addition, the normal punch I added to it does 2, making it 7. Now, however, normal punches can be different amounts of damage depending on the normal punch that you get, so that could increase the amount of attack damage it would do. Each character has 50 health, so once you take damage, you subtract that much. When the round is over, that means one character has been defeated. And there's 3 rounds of the game. Generally it'll end at 2, but it could go to 3 if you're tied 1-1. Alright, so doing attacks is pretty simple. It's based on here, this little chart here you're going to have, and it's going to be a smaller card when you get the game with Kickstarter. But every single character's attacks are different, and in fact in the game you can create your own attacks. But I could do certain things like an opener move, which is kind of interesting as well. This is an opener, and all of these different conditions apply here. C, L, S, K, D, Z, I, R, R, and G. And they all do different things and mean different things. And you'll have a card as well for that. R and G is for range, a CD is for change direction, and OPN is for opener move. And that means when you use a specific ability here, that's an opener, you can then use either one of these 2 special abilities. And the only time you can ever use these 2 special abilities is when you're starting with your opener. Because these guys do a lot of damage, 20 and 25. 25 damage is basically half of your health. Now remember, when changing directions, that also changes the style of play. You actually have to use the exact opposite of the cards other than down and up. You actually, if you're facing the opposite way you're normally facing, you would have to use the opposite facing card. So if this is a right facing one, instead you have to use the left facing one in order to deflect. And that differs depending on how you're situated. And hopefully the board is going to be more explanatory when the game is fully completed on Kickstarter. Now, dodging and blocking are also different things as well in the game. For instance, you have the block and you have the crouching block. A block simply blocks a basic attack, whereas it can't block a special attack. And a crouching block will block a basic attack or block half of the damage of a special attack. So that's the basis of the game. It's you draw at the beginning of your phase, then you play your cards, you resolve, and clean up. Now, also remember, too, that you have block and crouching blocks, and these do different things. The block will let you block any basic attack on this list here, and the crouching block will let you block special abilities by half as well as basic blocks, or as well as basic attacks. Also, whenever you do one of your special abilities here, you get to move your super meter up 1. Speaking of that, in order to use your main special ability, you have to have your super meter full and use your opener and the required cards in order to use your super, as well as depleting your super meter down to 0. Now, as well as increasing your super meter with just the basic attacks, or the special attacks I should say, you can also use wild cards to increase your super meter. You can also use wild cards to deflect attacks and attack again, not on your turn, or you can use them as any basic card in your hand, so a punch or a kick or so on and so forth. And you play 3 rounds. Best out of 3 is the winner, 50 points of health. I don't have the chits here, but basically they're going to get some sort of countdown, which will either be on the board or via certain tokens, and draining the person's life. And the rounds go fairly quickly, and that's basically how you play this side-scrolling fighting game. Alright, so that's super chibi. That's how you play the game for the most part. There's also a bunch of different conditions that involve the game where you're going to actually be stunning people or you're going to daze them, as well as jumping over them and how that all works. But that's a little more for you guys to reach out and pull out from the rules yourself. What I will say about the game is that it's definitely fun, and it definitely feels like one of those 2-player fighting games like Marvel vs. Capcom and Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. You do feel like that is part of the theme of the game. You're going back and forth, hitting each other, blocking each other's damages, throwing off those super combos, and taking away from each other's life points, which is really cool. Now, you can't heal in the game, which is okay, it doesn't bother me because you play up to 3 rounds. But the things that do kind of bother me are simple things. Like, for instance, these cards. Now, you can't. It's kind of hard to see them like this, especially the arrows. So you're missing these little things here on the side. Luckily, I've talked to the design of the game, and I've resolved a couple of the issues that I thought were kind of just minor things that needed to be tweaked, and he settled on them. He said that's a great idea, and so I'm going to talk about those actually right now because I think it's important. He's actually going to have on all the cards, they're going to be shown on the corner so you can see them like playing cards, as well as the fact that in the game, when you're going back and forth, switching different directions, you have to change your directional buttons to, you can get screwed over when you have to change those directional buttons. And now he's going to include a reference card that you can switch back and forth depending on the way you're facing, making it easier to see which cards you need in your hand. Now, obviously, the fact that you might not have those cards is still going to be a detriment, but that's part of the fun of the game, having to draw those cards in the deck to get to them. Another thing is that the wild cards in the deck are very, very powerful. There's only 2 of them, and sometimes you're going to want to dig for them. Well, in the base game, you're only going to get one deck, but if you want it as an add-on, you could buy two, which is what I would suggest. So you can each have your own deck, and if you both want to dig for it, you can go ahead and do so. And if you don't, one player can do that, and you can just pummel his face in while he's trying to do that. Because of how strong those wild cards are, though, if you do get them, they're super powerful. Another thing to mention is the board is going to be different. They're going to be changing it up, and it's going to look a lot better than how it is now. I can show you a little image right here. All right, as well as the miniatures here. Now, I didn't get time to set them up, but they look really cool. And I think they're going to be also different as well. They're basically ones that come with little bases. They kind of remind me of how Warhammer models come, is you're going to need to set them up, glue them up yourself, which is not a big deal. And if you got even a slightly steady hand, which is probably better than me, you'll be able to set it up fairly easily and then paint your pretty models, which is really cool. So the game overall is really, really good. I really enjoy it, and all the qualms I had with it are going to be fixed. We're going to be added. And I think those reference cards, seeing the cards in the corner is going to make a big difference, as well as the player board is going to show you the health, and it's going to be a lot prettier looking. And there's going to be a ton of different models, and I think the models are going to look even better. The card quality is great, the miniature quality is really good, and I really like the board setup, and the game itself plays wonderfully. And that's what I think about Super Chibi. Alright guys, thanks for watching another Unfiltered Gamer Kickstarter board game review. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, go ahead and check us out here on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and comment. As well as going to our website for additional content, unfilteredgamer.com. There you'll find our big Kickstarter list of all the newest and greatest board games out this month, as well as blogs and a ton of giveaways. Right now we're giving away the game Emergence, we're giving away the game The Refuge, we're giving away the game Monsters in the Elevator, and tons of other ones. So if you like that kind of stuff, check us out. As well as checking out our affiliate websites, everythingboardgames.com and The Giveaway Geek, two other great sites that do lots of giveaways and have lots of other great blog posts. So go ahead and check them out as well if you'd like. Alright guys, that's it for this episode, and we look forward to seeing you next time.